Good evening friends. Today I read one important article in the 23 June's the Hindu newspaper which was related to the India's digital sovereignty. First of all, we have to understand what is sovereignty in the digital. So the digital sovereignty means the country which regulates their digital technology on their own basis, on their own decision. So like writer is arguing in this article is that most of the companies, software companies which we are using in India are totally based on the America and other nations. So that's why it is becoming very important part for India's security and sovereignty, because as writer given example in this article that when during 1999 when India has restricted to using the navigation system from the other side, we were refused to use that navigation system. As a result, we developed our own indigenous NavIC satellite system. That was a good point that writer was mentioned. So another example was that when the suddenly the Russian giant company, oil company Rosneft, which was operating in India with cooperation with the India's Nayara Energy, suddenly the Western countries have stopped their email and cloud services. So because of that, this incident teaches us how the technological sovereignty is important for any countries, because in future if we are in trouble situation, our country is in the any difficult situation, that time any country which we are dependent on that country, they can take that type of decisions which will be harmful for our country. So writer is also given example about Chinese CCTV we are using around in 2026 we are using CCTVs which are totally based on the some companies which are using the Chinese based servers. So that is why it is becoming very critical for India's security. So in future, if anything happens, then it can be created as a tool for controlling the India's security system. So that's the very important thing that writer is arguing. And another important aspects, like most of the companies who are operating from the other nations, they can also control our data. Like we are seeing that most of the companies, we are totally dependent on the data for the US. So if that companies are established in India, but despite that they can share their data to the other nations, and it can comes under the foreign rules and regulations. That data can comes under the international regulations. So that is why if we, despite we have the data, but data centers in India, but that can be controlled by the other nations. So that is why writer is saying that digital sovereignty is very important. So talking about the developing our own technology, India is spending around 0.74% on the research and development as compared to the other nations on the world scale, like more than 2%. So that is very the spending of the other nations on the research and development is more than 2%. So that is why we can say that investing in the research and development through the GDP is more amount. It will be very critical. It will be very important for India's sovereignty. So that was the importance of this article, and as we definitely say that India should focus more on developing its technology. Like we are seeing that India is on the stage where India is growing, India is developing, India's economy is developing. So on the world scale and in the geopolitics, the countries who is developing and going towards the superpower, their economy is coming near to the superpower. That time superpower wants to dominate that country and restrict its development. They try to restrict its development. So such type of situation is happening with India, because India is on the developing stage and currently our economy is growing in a good way. So that is why India is very, I think, step back as compared to other nations like most of the European nations like France has using their indigenous softwares for their security purposes. Alongside that, Netherlands, Germany and other European nations are reducing their importance on US, like they are not using their Microsoft system, operating system in some sectors. So that is why this type of situation is ahead of India. So India should focus on developing its own technological softwares, because we are saying that in the war software is very important than hardware. So if our writer is also given one example, if our radars, fighter jets, their security codes are from the other nations, so it can be controlled by that nation, that they can reduce the speed of that fighter jets, and they can also control that accuracy of that fighter jet, so that can be happen. So also one example was good given by the writer was that we and Russia developed the BrahMos missile system. So that was a very good critical thing for India to towards the sovereignty in the defense sector. So going to conclude this topic, India should focus more on the digital sovereignty in terms of developing its own software technology to prevent the further geopolitical shocks, and also increase its investment in defense capabilities, and also give a permission to the private companies in critical defense development, like other nations, European nations providing funds to the private companies to develop the technologies. Thank you.